Hello everybody, welcome to episode 250 of Nintendo Pow Block. I am your host, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, since the very beginning, is that retro code, Eddie V.
Hello everybody.
It's Ed's fault that I'm hosting tonight, guys. I know a lot of people are used to Ed hosting, especially the last few months, but so just to give everybody a little bit of a heads up, we are recording this early. We're recording it live because I kind of want to get some input feedback from the chat. This isn't going live on feeds until I want to say probably the Sunday of E3, because that Monday is going to be our live episode 250 with everybody probably talking about the Nintendo Direct and stuff like that. So E3 hasn't happened yet by the time we're recording this. It's close. But
Yes.
Basically what we're going to do is probably talk for about 45 minutes to an hour, like a retrospective of Pow Block and Boss Rush Network and everything, and then kind of what we're aiming to do in the future a little bit. We always say that Boss Rush Podcast is our flagship show, but Nintendo Pow Block is, honestly, it's our biggest show on the network, and it's kind of the heart and soul of the network. It's the what do you want to call it, Ed? The beginnings, the
beginning, the beta, the daddy of them all. Just like, this is kind of like the birthplace of not just only Nintendo Power Block when Boss Rush, but kind of like the beginning of our friendship.
I mean, it was the beginning of our friendship. I asked you to do a Nintendo show with me, and you showed up, and we started doing it, like with Adrian and Kyle, and then on to a few other people. And we've had rotating guests in. We've had multiple third chairs. Now it's, we've got a bunch of people that we can rotate in and out. Dan and David are a pretty permanent part of the panel, I would say. Jacob Galatrad, follow him on Twitch. He produces the live show sometimes, and he sits in on the show. He's doing his thing. It's crazy, man. Like, I went back to like the DNA pages that that when the show started, and it was just like, dude, we've come a long way. As hosts, as personalities, as people. I gotta tell you, it's I think about, before you go, I think about this show often, and I think about us often. And for people that don't know, Ed and I have probably 2 or 3 meetings a week during my lunch break. We call each other and talk about stuff and what's going on, or just trying to work through some stuff mentally, or prepping stuff for shows. And like, because we don't really podcast a lot together anymore, because Ed's has been hosting Pow Block, and I've been needed other places, which I'm going to try to be on Pow Block from now on. Again, I just we needed Arsenal X off the ground. We tried a new show in standard def that didn't really work out. We moved Boss Rush to Sunday nights, right, because of just kids and crazy schedules and that kind of stuff. But Pow Block, even though it's weird, it's not that my love of Nintendo is gone. It's just like the games I'm playing have shifted other places, right? Like Destiny isn't on Switch, so I play a lot of Destiny. I'm kind of waiting for the next big game for Nintendo for me, which is going to be Mario Golf. I'm just going to say it right here, guys. Mario Golf. It's not leaving my system. But yeah, I was looking at the DNA channels that the show started on, Ed, and it's just like, I know the shows were bad, right? Like from a listening perspective and stuff, and you could tell we didn't really know each other. You can tell like that I didn't really host podcasts. I didn't really, do that sort of thing, right? Especially in an online space, right? I was doing a podcast at the time with my friends, like together at a table
Right.
with 4 microphones and a laptop capturing the audio and a real camera videotaping us, right? Like we were doing that type of stuff. And
yes,
when we started doing that, and like Nerds Gone Rogue started, and then we wanted to do a Nintendo podcast, right? Like we met literally in the Nintendo voice chat Facebook group.
yes.
Right? And man, Ed, this was this show means a lot to both of us, I think. Not just in terms of creating content online and just doing that kind of stuff and kind of what Boss Rush has become, but it means a lot to me because of our friendship. And I tweeted out the other day that, you know, the appreciation post for you, just because we had this conversation, I think, at some point, that I think you are the reason I still do this. You are the reason I still do this. If it wasn't for you, and the way that, you know, some things happened with older groups, and we don't need to retread that story.
Yeah.
If you wanna listen to that story, it's probably somewhere. I don't know if I would really be doing this right now, especially with 2 kids and you know, my wife and other priorities and stuff. But you really kept me in this space, especially after the first 6 months of the other things that happened, like that. You know, it's this show. This show has kept me happy, I guess, is creative and fulfilled, even though I haven't really been on it a lot in the last couple months. But how do you feel about Pow Block right now, Ed? How are you? How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling mentally good, I should say that, and fix the jumping around and being positive. I can say this, like, before I get into the present, looking back at the past, I remember even before like meeting you and everything, and finding out a Nintendo community. I pretty much was doing a lot of stuff on my own, and I met some other friends of mine who kind of got me into podcasting. And then, like, probably when you was doing like DNA, I think probably sometime before that, I was doing Ustream with Optional Opinion. And so I didn't know what were the proper channels or the things to do for a podcast. I just learned on how to get a mic, get a mixer, and just speak. I had no notice of setting up a show or having topics, but like, what the heck I'm gonna talk, researching, didn't do none of that or anything. And to think over time, before I met you, I'm like, okay, this is how I get to learn to make a show better. My friend kind of helped me out, so I think, you know, I kind of want to thank the Anomalous Radio Network for kind of helping me prepare for what I am now today with you. In a sense. And like, when I met you on DNA, where after Nintendo voice chat, you know, I told you I bought a shirt from you. I was like tuning in the shows, and I was messaging you. And then when you asked me, I was just like, Nintendo's my favorite company. Of course I would do a podcast with you. Because at that time, I'm like, I wasn't going nowhere. I had all the free time in the world to talk about all things Nintendo. Like, I talked about gaming. And then we met, we sat down, and it was just like, let's see how this goes. And out of the bat, the moment we talked about the Breath of the Wild trailer, it felt like we knew each other for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was our very first episode together. Was that?
Yeah.
June 21st, 2016 was our very first episode post. We had done a couple video ones before then, but yeah, that, man, dude, Wow.
And throughout the years, it was just like, because a lot of people don't know that there was times that I was being opinionated about the stuff, and everybody was kind of coming to you saying about what I was saying, and I was just like, I just think it's something this and something that, and me and you, we had a talk, and you defended me on some things, and I apologize to you for some things. To be like, hey, like I said, it's been a roller coaster. We had
Yeah,
our ups and downs.
it's been a it's been a crazy ride, but I want to say one thing is like there's some things that I defended you on. There's also some things I should have defended you on that I didn't on some way back in the day. But the fact of the matter is like when I said this the other day, it was like I don't care if Boss Rush grows to 100 people or if everybody quits and it's just you and me. I won't do this without you, right? Like I won't, and I don't care what people are saying. I don't care if people are telling you to quit because of me or me to quit because of you or telling me to fire you or you fire me or whatever. I'm not doing this without you, right? Like it's been that, right? And like it's been you and me since the beginning, and I'm not gonna not do this without you, right?
Right, and I said the same thing about you. Like, if you leave, I'm gone, because I'm like, I'm not doing this without you. And I think because of why this relates to Nintendo Pow Block so much is because we came together to only talk about Nintendo, but then when we got off, when the show was over, we were still talking. And even not about Nintendo. We were talking about our lives.
I mean, sometimes I just felt like we forgot we were recording a podcast and we were just talk for 3 hours about this stuff. And it's like...
Exactly.
Dude, okay, so... look, we started doing the show when the Wii U was like... I guess I was going to say popular, but we know that's not true. Was Nintendo's main console, right? We were doing episodes when Paper Mario Color Splash and like that really bad Mario Tennis game were the main games they had out for the fall. Like that's, man.
But then it's just like we was still. People are surprised that we were still talking about Nintendo in
how many people asked
in a good light?
How many people? Okay. I mean, yeah, people were listening because Nintendo, right? And like Nintendo wasn't popular, so we had a pretty hardcore fan base, I guess, for us. Like it was pretty small, but it was a lot of people, the same people listening, right? But there were people that would message us and be like, why are you doing a Nintendo podcast? Nintendo's going third party. Nintendo's doing this. They're exiting hardware. And it's like, you can still have a Nintendo podcast. There's people out there that do Ubisoft podcasts, or you know what I mean? Like, it's not just
a dedicated podcast.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it was just like we talking about Nintendo and whether it's a positive or negative, like wherever people want to see it. Every time there was a direct, we was watching it, reacting, and people were seeing how hype we was getting. People, the way just Iwata or Miyamoto or like our E3s and stuff like that, like people were watching us. People were getting the content, the work that you was putting out through the video. People started seeing our compassion.
Yeah.
And our nerdiness. And that's kind of what related to now is that it's always been there. Is that we have compassion for Nintendo, just like we have compassion for other things in gaming and stuff. But like with Nintendo, we have that compassion and that nerd out thing. When something wacky or weird, like literally go back to the episode when there's a Nintendo Direct when they announced Doom, it's Doom, the 2016 game, was coming to Switch, and I had to leave to go to a Milwaukee concert. I hit Corey up in the quickness, and we did a show, and we were just like Corey, what in the world is Nintendo? Like, we was astounded about what was going on, and it was just like, this is the natural nerdy compassionate reactions we was having. Like if I didn't go to that, if I didn't have to go to that concert in Milwaukee, I literally we probably would have podcast for almost 2.5 hours,
dude. We would have
just by the director.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I remember that. You're like, I gotta go, but if you're still up, we'll record when I get home. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I'm not gonna be up at 3:00 in the morning. I'm sorry.
Right. And the thing about it that people don't know was that this is when Switch was being talked about, where they're not going to have no games.
Project NX.
Exactly. Nobody was going to support them. And you see, from 2017 up to now, they're still surprising us with games coming out. We still look at a Nintendo Direct and be like, wait a minute, they're doing what? Like wow. And it's just like, when we come together and talk about it, it's just like, and this is for any kind of show, that when people come together and talk about games, they get hyped and it feels natural. And I think when me and you podcast throughout all of those years, everything has been natural. Everything has been fun. We come together and do a list, and we would like literally laugh at each other, because we would have our list will almost be the same, but it's just in different places and stuff. It was just it's that, I guess it's that kind of friendship for us to do 250 years, 250 episodes. God, you know, some of
250 years. If we become androids and like,
yeah. Welcome
to Nintendo Pow Block episode 6,042. I don't know.
But it's always resonated with me that when I do Pow Block, definitely when I do it with you, or if I just do it with Dan, David, or anybody, like we could have a 2-man show for a time being if need. So it's always remember to have fun. Mm-hmm. It's always, and we could talk different. We could be critical of Nintendo, and we have, but it's always make the conversation feel fun and genuine. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've been doing for years.
Yeah. And man, I'm looking at some of these old shows, and like the old backgrounds, or like when we were using Google Hangouts instead of Skype and like OBS and stuff, and like when I would go to edit the show, it would just be like the purple border with the old Pow Block graffiti logo that we used to have. It was just like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Ed, why didn't you stop me?
Look, we were using what we had during that time. Technology evolved, and I'm gonna leave it at that, because I messaged you a couple of days ago about I'm like, man, I'm watching our 2019 E3 coverage for Nintendo Pow Block, and it was just like, when it was just me and you doing it, and watching the whole thing being excited, and then just us talking about Breath of the Wild 2. And then when you talked about, I put in a message that you mentioned the Souls of the Champions. Now thinking of like Hyrule Warriors, I'm like, dang it, now we could have another like theory discussion about what Breath of the Wild 2 could be. And I think that's the kind of fun that me and you have for it. And it's not a knock against anybody, but like in past episodes, that was the thing when we would do theory episodes.
We'd go in with like this whole list of things to talk about, right? Like show notes I'd text it to you in our Facebook chat or whatever. And then we'd like literally about 10 minutes in, we just throw them out and just start talking, right? Like, I mean, yeah, I know.
I have literally derailed a lot of conversations.
Derailed, dude. We've derailed whole shows, and then we'd have to like re-record shows because we didn't even talk about what we were supposed to talk about. And like, that's when we started doing Pow Block twice a week at one point, because like one would be like, okay, the second episode of the week has to be the news that we were going to talk about in the first episode. But the first episode will be listener questions and just tangents, right? And we did that for a while, right? We did 2 episodes for like 6 months, I think, a week.
Yeah.
So, man.
Remember that? Remember there were signs that we didn't even have an episode. In the moment, we were just like, "Hello, everybody, welcome to Nintendo Pow Block. Ed, how you doing? I'm doing fine. I'm just playing this game. I'm like, oh, you are?
Yeah. I mean, we used to
and just go in.
We used to record and just play, like, we would literally be playing Wii U or 3DS at the time while we were recording episodes. Like, if you go back to like those probably like the first 20 or 30 episodes, which I don't know why they didn't transfer over to Anchor. I'm working on that. I'm working on getting all of our old content, even though it's pretty bad to get on there at some point. But like, if you go back to those first 20 or 30 episodes, you can hear like clickety clack of sticks and like probably someone's 3DS hinge breaking off or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can hear that stuff, and it's man, we used to do so many things just like so unprofessionally and so like anybody listening to a podcast would be like, oh my gosh, why is there so many noises in the background? And it's like, well, we were just excited.
And that, I think that's what made the shows natural in a sense, because it's just like the most random stuff would happen. Google Hangouts did not like me at all.
No.
No. And the thing, the Corey could tell you as many times we
how many episodes of Pow Block or Nerds Gone Rogue did we have to cut like probably 15 or 20 minutes out because Google Hangouts just like hated you, and then we had to just like stop that recording, download the video, and then start a new recording just so your microphone would work. It was so bad.
It wasn't the microphone, it was the camera. If it wasn't the camera, it's somehow the internet. And the thing with Google Hangouts is, what was weird was that at one point I still had, and I still to this day, I had an Ethernet in my computer to make sure that everything runs smooth.
Yeah,
and Google Hangouts.
Look, we know you're still running off of AOL demo discs. Okay, like, I mean, it's
not doing that.
Sometimes when you sign off Skype, I'm expecting a door slam like on Instant Messenger or something. But man, Ed, this show, and like I know around episode, what was it, 200, 220, when you started taking over the show, because I was gonna go try to help boost Arsenal X's numbers, and kind of Jesse and I were going to make that show, just because nobody was like wanting to talk about Xbox except for Jesse, and like I like my Xbox, right?
Same here.
I mean, it's where I play most of my games, honestly, at this point. And by most of my games, I mean I play Destiny and Gears of War sometimes, and Outriders. That's what my Xbox is for. But we were trying to do that, and we were trying to do so many different things that ended up not working, or people just left, or we wanted to try something new. And I still feel bad about that show too. Like, I messaged Jesse. I was like, hey, what are you doing about Arsenal X this weekend? And scheduling stuff, it's been it's probably not going to work out this weekend, but I will never love a show like this one. And when I left, well, didn't leave, I stepped down as host, it like as much as I knew that I hadn't been playing my Switch because of Tower Casuals had started, and I needed to keep up with Destiny. I needed to kind of help out Arsenal X, and we had a good crew on Arsenal X for a while there too. And as much as I felt like I was needed there, it like really killed me to give up Pow Block, even though like I knew like I wasn't really doing the show justice by not playing my Switch, if it makes sense. At least that's what it felt like in my head. And I mean, I know like you probably should have been hosting the show for a long time, and I still like, even if we just swap places, it's just like, man, I I don't know. This show really means a lot to me, and I feel like I gave up something that I truly love for a while, and that's why like I want to be back and more involved in the show and be like, really push it forward, because I miss it. I miss it, and I miss us having this, just discussion, right? Like this talk that we're having is like stuff we used to do all the time.
Yeah.
We used to do this stuff all the time. We would record quote unquote mini blocks just to have an excuse to do another episode of Pow Block, right? Like
yes.
we were talking about that the other night with Dan a little bit, and like how we would record mini blocks, which were our idea of like a 15 or 20 minute episode, kind of like WASD and Beyond's Hot Fix episodes, right? Like a shorter episode. But then we would turn it into like an hour and a half of nonsense when we talked to. And the one we always bring up is sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead, because I know what you read when you go.
The one we always bring up is the Metroid multiplayer game. Yes. That we wanted to talk. We had a question and we wanted to talk about it for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, what it could look like, and then we went on like an hour and a half discussion on like Helldivers, and like what if you took some of the ideas of Metroid Prime Federation Force and mixed them with Helldivers, and you went in as a team of bounty hunters that way.
The evolution and the build of this game that me and you had just grew and grew, and we had to get to the point where we had to stop forcing. We had to force ourselves to stop talking about it to end the show. So we stopped talking about it, but the problem was that we talked about it 15 more minutes after the show.
I know, and then we ended up doing a second episode on it. Like literally 2 weeks later, we were like, we got to do this. We got to flesh out these ideas. These are important. These are
and you know what's funny now, Corey? Thinking about it now, because of the garage game that Nintendo is making, I literally wonder. I may go back, take down notes, and see if we could make that game in the garage simulator.
I know. I thought about that, and I thought about like I thought about what if we just made a whole episode of Pow Block in the garage builder game that's coming out. Like just somehow animate us all just sitting there talking and like doing a voice, whatever. Like I feel like it's possible. It would take a lot of work, but I feel like it's possible. But man, and so Pow Block is it's special, man. I know like our audience is relatively small compared to a lot of other podcasts. I know like we've been doing it for a long time and we don't really care about the audience numbers or anything, even though they've like really spiked in the last 6 months or so. See, here's the thing. All I have to do is leave a show and the numbers go up.
Now, because I don't know the numbers. Corey gets the numbers, he gets the stats, so he let us all know.
You have the login.
I know I do. I have the login, but I think my thing is I get so focused into doing the show, and when I'm in the show, I'm having fun with everybody, and I know that I need to like reach out to the community and reach out into the audience and stuff while talking. But it's just like when your mind is so into the show, you try to make sure that things are running one way. You kind of forget some other things in everything. So, I think with me, that's why when Celeste came on and we happened to come up with Snacktendo, because we was talking about snacks, like talking about food and stuff, and then just like making that a segment. And then I was like, you know what? Let me add Game Fact events or let me I haven't heard a podcast that actually give facts about games, and I know a lot of us who play Nintendo or who just play video games in general. There's a lot of games out there that we just don't know a lot of facts about or
Mm-hmm.
little tidbits and stuff. So I'm like, it'd be cool if we added that, and of course doing news and a big question and stuff like that, and then doing the quiz show. You know, uh adding that to everything, like who doing a Nintendo quiz show. Everybody say that I make the questions hard. I don't know how. And I think I make the last questions challenging, but I make it easier for people to do multiple choice. And I wonder, like, do people have fun doing quiz shows? Like, it's not research or anything, because it's like you make a choice of what what answer do you think would answer this question. Now, when I speak the stuff in Japanese, yeah, that's a tough question, because just like we don't follow the Japanese, but that's kind of how Nintendo is. Nintendo is a Japanese company, and maybe that would help people to research why we have those discussions about why Nintendo doing this and Nintendo's doing that. Well, Nintendo of America has to listen to anything that Nintendo Japan say, because they are the head honchos. They are
Mm-hmm.
the CEOs. Nintendo of America just get the information and put it out there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I don't. I'm just like this. This reminds me of just the times we used to have doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
Just all this is like, I don't know. I think it's just maybe because we don't really get to do this a lot anymore because we're being pulled so many different directions, right? And
Yeah.
you know, Pow Block is different now, and I'm not saying it in a bad way. Like that's not what I'm saying. You know, I think the show right now is great. I miss us just hanging out a couple nights a week, just talking as friends about things that we love, right? Like, and
Yes.
I kind of hope that we can get back to that, right? And I mean, I plan on it, and I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just kind of spouting some thoughts out here. I don't know what. How do you? And we kind of just talked a lot about the past show. Like
Mm-hmm.
which episodes stand out to you? Like, I mean, just like one or two episodes that stand out.
Well, I did, like I mentioned, the Nintendo Direct with Doom, the our E3 presentation, but one of the ones that stood out was actually making our top 25 Wii U list.
I was thinking the same thing. I was literally just looking at those episodes just now.
And like I go back to that, and to be like, for a system that people said that didn't have no games, we were we were able to come
I
up
know
with 20.
it,
Dude, we came up
dude.
with
We came up with 50 games first of all because I gave
yes.
you my list and you're like, I'm not picking any of the games that are on your list. I'm like, well, that's not your top 50. That's just 25 different games than what I picked.
Right.
But like, I still stand by this day that the Wii U has the best library of any Nintendo console to date. It had well for me, right? Like it has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are games on the Switch that I love that I would probably really have to think hard about that right now. But if you think about the Wii U, not even counting Virtual Console right now, right? Not even counting
Yes.
Virtual Console, it has my three favorite Zelda games on it: in Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and Breath of the Wild. It has my
Yep.
favorite Mario game on it, and Mario 3D World. It has
Yep.
arguably the best Xenoblade game that nobody played in Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Oh, it's mind blowing. Mind blowing how Monolith soft.
I can't believe that game looks that good and runs that well on that system.
Exactly.
It has Tokyo Mirage Sessions. It has my favorite Assassin's Creed game in Black Flag. It has my favorite Batman game in Arkham Origins. It has probably the best 2D Donkey Kong game in Tropical Freeze, right?
Mm-hmm.
Captain Toad has Captain Toad. It has what I think minus the story stuff, the best version of Mass Effect 3, right?
Yes.
Like in
Yes.
terms of playing the game. I know it's not the best version overall, but like the stuff that you can do on the Wii U gamepad is amazing. Like directing your squad mates around the map with like you can actually draw paths on the map and watch them, trace the lines on the map. What are some of the it has Darksiders 1 and 2, which are some games that I really love. It has a lot. It has so much.
Outside of the games, I was watching Hulu and Netflix on my Wii U. Like late at night, not with my TV on, watching on the gamepad with the headphones.
Mm-hmm.
Falling asleep to it, even with YouTube and stuff. And it was just like, wow. And I think it was a time that people didn't understand why Platinum Games became who they are now.
Oh, right. Because Bayonetta 2 is on there, right? Bayonetta 1 and 2 on there, which Bayonetta 2 runs better on the Wii U than the Switch. Spoilers, guys. It runs at 1080p 60 on the Wii U, and not 720p. Not disparaging the Switch, but it runs better on the Wii U. It has my favorite modern 2D Mario game. It has Mario Kart 8. Right? It has so much, man. Like it has so much.
And we're just mentioning main games and mostly like just like a little bit of the third party and a lot of Nintendo. But when indies, I think when PlayStation and Microsoft felt like the indie games was moving away from them, people were picking up the indies on Wii U. Still to this very day, Axiom Verge on Wii U. You mentioned Virtual Console. Dude, like, and then I played the Metroid Prime trilogy on Switch. On my Wii U. It was just like, wow. I'm like, I forgot that backwards compatibility was still a big thing with Nintendo, where you didn't have to wait for it to come to your system. You literally was just able to pop in the game and bam, it worked. And regardless of how you looked at the technology, I'm like, you couldn't deny that Nintendo just had backwards compatibility on lock because of their handhelds. And then, like, their console, whether you like the Wii or not, it was a GameCube game for some people. And it was just like, I could put my GameCube up, but I'm just like, I really don't want to. And then Smash for Wii U and using your I was playing Smash with my 3DS. Like I didn't use the gamepad. I literally used my 3DS to control my characters and whip tail. And it's always funny to see, still to this very day, watching Game Informer. They had the game and doing their 8-player Smash, and it was laughter. And me and you, not big Smash players, but when we played it, we were having fun.
I want you to know that I'm a huge Smash player, and by that I mean I picked the biggest character in King Dedede in Smash.
But then me and you, but you cannot deny that Shovel Knight, an indie game, took Game of the Year. We could not stop talking about Shovel Knight.
I still can't stop talking about Shovel Knight. What are you talking about? There's two games.
I know, and it's so good.
And I would argue that the Spectre Knight DLC is the best part of that entire collection. Like the Spectre Knight DLC is amazing. Ugh. Shovel Knight, man. What a delightful little package.
Yeah, I think that was just our passion for Nintendo. Definitely one of the hardest ones that I actually had to go back to and watch was Iwata's passing. Like I
think that was like our 5th or 6th episode.
I think so, yeah. So for Boss Rush, I wrote a banner. It was unexpected, but shout out to David Laxby. That I was planning on writing the title "What Video Game Made You Cry," and it was just like, it wasn't such a video game that has made me cry. Like, video games affect me, but not to that level. it was the fact that Iwata had passed away. Like, and I told my experience. I think I talked about this on Power Block
Mm-hmm.
that I got in my friend's car and I cried about a person that I never met, I didn't know, but I watched his life through the directs. I read about him and everything, and it was just like when Iwata touched something or he stated something or that time he took that 50% pay cut so he could still keep in employees, that was like meaningful to me because
Mm-hmm.
it showed that he cared about the company. And we could talk about Activision and other companies who who treat their employees or see their employees in a certain way. I feel like Iwata did something different, and then it kind of felt like when we lost Iwata, literally to see for it was almost a whole week that people could not get over the fact that Iwata passed away. Like I literally cried, went to the bar, and drank.
Yeah, dude, remember when you like at the time I was like when I found out that Iwata had
In New
passed away,
York.
I was in New York standing outside of the Nintendo store and it had just closed. And like I was flipping through Twitter and I was like, "Oh my gosh, Iwata died." And then you and I had like this giant text conversation about it. It was like,
Yeah.
man, that was a rough day. And then like I went back and there was like a line around the store, right? Because I got Amiibo in stock and like that was like right at the height of the Smash releases.
Yes.
Got Charizard and Lucina, by the way. That was awesome. That was a great trip.
So jelly of you, but it's so
I know.
good.
Was that when that happened? I think so. But
Yeah.
there was a line around the door and people were going in the store and not buying anything. They were signing the Iwata Memories book. Like there you had this giant book like when you would go to like a funeral or something and you sign the
Hmm.
guest book or whatever. People were leaving bushels of bananas outside. They were leaving Kirby plushies. They were leaving Donkey Kong barrels. They were leaving Pokemon stuffed animals outside. And it just was like he touched so many people in so many different ways that like and like you would like I didn't even know that many people cared. Like it was crazy.
That literally was the thing about it for people who felt like Nintendo was a failure of a company or wasn't important to the gaming industry. It really showed that they they were important to the gaming industry, and it's not because of your relationship of it during the kid days back in the 80s or 90s, or if you whether you played the Nintendo or not. It was the fact that Iwata, he lived this life. He was out there showing that games could be anything and everything, but they really got to be fun. If they are not fun, and like we still hold this to this every day. If games are not fun to you and all you do is complain about them, why even try them? Why even play them?
Mm-hmm.
Like Iwata was the only president of a first party company out there doing Nintendo Directs, speaking in English. Like go back and look at the views of Iwata and Reggie fighting in Smash
Gosh, dude, the
for
Muppets,
E3.
like the E3 Muppets were like they were, oh my god, it was so cool. And then they all like transformed into Star Fox characters, and that's when we got
Exactly.
the Star Fox Zero announcement, which was like, say what you will about Star Fox Zero, like I have my opinions on that game. Ed has his, but like that announcement was one of the coolest things they've ever done.
Right. And Iwata felt like the way that we felt about E3 last year,
Mm-hmm.
Iwata felt like that the year when he was sick before he passed away. He was just like, I wish I could be with everybody at E3, and he couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about breaking us, dude. Like that broke the industry. And
Yeah.
reason why that's important to us for a pop block, because we got to talk about it, we got to express it. I think we spent like 45 minutes before we even got to news and stuff about it. But it was like it kind of showed us that sometimes when developers and when people make a when developers and people make are meaningful in your life, if they're really, they're really important, they really are just like sometimes for some people the glue that that keeps you together and stuff. You really feel like that when you get to know somebody, they really, really are a friend. They really are someone important to you. And I think Iwata was kind of that friend to us, was that important person to us. He was important to Power Block because he was the face of the Nintendo Directs. He was the face of Nintendo, and you know he was not only a developer and stuff. Like he was the one why when we looked at the Nintendo Direct, we wanted to see if Iwata's going to be there and what wacky thing he's going to do. Whether was holding the bananas, whether he was just in his suit and just talking, regardless of what it looked like, what Iwata was going through, he always had a smile. He always felt welcome to it. And losing him is just like, man, we don't get to see, I don't know who is doing the stuff that Iwata does that make you, when you watch a State of Play or Inside Xbox, or when you watch any kind of program and stuff, does that host or something make you feel welcome like Iwata? Because like when I was watching them, I always felt welcome. Like that's where my snack stuff came from. Was because of Iwata and Nintendo Direct. Because Corey, that when I was just like, when Nintendo Direct was happening on Tuesdays, I had my snacks.
Yep.
You see me eating my snacks.
Remember? I think it was. I don't remember. I think it was like the second or third year we did a watch along. I think it was probably the second year, and it was you, me, and I think Ray Osorio joined us.
Yeah.
And then he bounced, but then I think Larry popped in for a while, which I would like to get him on some sort of episode at some point. I've been meaning to reach out to him for a couple of months now, actually, and I just haven't. But like he came on and like we literally just sat there and watched probably like 2 hours of Treehouse just snacking on garbage, just like shoveling it in. And it was like, oh, I got like 6 bags of chips here. I wonder what flavor this is. You know what I mean?
I think it was 17 or 18. I think it was 18 because they showed that Samus Return through a Treehouse, and we was just like, wait a minute, what is this? And it was the new Metroid for the 3DS. And we was just like, what is happening? Like, we were seeing this live, everybody. Everybody who was watching Treehouse live, we was recording live, and we were just eating garbage.
Yeah.
It's stuff.
Man, gosh, that was so... It feels like so long ago. I always feel like we've done this show longer than we have, Because, like, I mean, I guess it's only been, like, a little over 5 years, but, like... I feel like
we've been like 6 or 7.
It feels longer than that in some cases, to be honest with you. But, but okay. So, I mean, how do you kind of feel about the show right now? Like, I mean, it's changed, especially since we started Boss Rush in particular. I mean, we canceled this show to start what was the NX show at the time, right?
Yes.
We canceled this and Arsenal X to start that because your schedule is changing. I got a new job. Jesse, works at night, and so like we only had time to record one show, and we tried alternating weeks for a while. That didn't work. We tried, whatever, and we were just like, I don't really want to do this, but what if we just merge the shows and talked about Nintendo and Xbox in one show? And like that was our solution, right?
Right.
And then once the NX show, once we left Nerds Gone Rogue and that kind of ended, and we started what we were calling Codename NX at the time, right? Which is it's still a cool name. Part of me sometimes wishes we would have kept it, but also Boss Rush is a cool name, so plus, if you type in Codename NX, you're going to get a bunch of 2015 articles on what Nintendo's developing. So, I mean, But anyways, when we started the NX show, right, like the 4th or 5th episode of the NX show, which is the Boss Rush podcast now, people were like, bring back Pow Block. Bring back Pow Block. Bring back Pow Block. And we didn't. Like, we stood our ground for, 5-6 months, maybe? Was it that long? I don't know if it was that long. It might have been like 4.
Yeah, it wasn't that long.
And, like, we brought it back. And that first episode we brought back, we had record numbers at the time. Record numbers.
Crazy.
It was crazy. It was crazy. And it's just like, people love our Nintendo talks, right? They loved our talks about Nintendo. And the NX show, like, I mean, the Boss Rush podcast is what it is now. Like, I still like that show. I'm glad everybody's involved in it, right? And then, but there's just something about Nintendo Pow Block, Ed. There is just something about Pow Block. And then, like, we did the same with Arsenal X, and like, I have this conversation with Jesse a couple times every couple months or so. Like, it has the coolest logo. It has the coolest theme song. It probably has the coolest color scheme and background and stuff. It's just like, I feel like we never really got a hold of what that show could or should have been. And like, we had a good run, like when I left the show to go host that show, to try to really give it an identity. But like,
for people who don't know about Arsenal X, our Xbox podcast,
oh god,
we literally was throwing out names, because this is kind of how like Boss Rush and like Crossroads, and not so much Crossroads, but probably Crossroads too. But like a lot of our name stuff started. Me, you, and Jesse were throwing out crazy, goofy names, and I think you, Corey, just mentioned, what if we called it Arsenal X? And I was just like, that's it.
Yeah, dude, I thought it was so stupid at the time. I thought, like, I mean, I just thought it was the dumbest. I was like, well, Xbox starts with X, and there's a lot of shooters on Xbox, so let's just call it Arsenal X, because there's a lot of bullets in our arsenal. And then we were like, Ed's like, let's do it. I'm like, no.
Then you gave me Arsenal X for a bit, and that's how Throwing Up the X came up. And that's how, like, let's throw up the X more time, because we Xing it out. Isn't
it amazing how many like little stupid things that we used to do are still around?
Yeah,
they're still around. And like, I was trying to talk to Jesse earlier, but like, now that like Standard is over, right? Boss Rush moved to Sundays. Like, anytime the show records later on Saturdays, I'm gonna probably try to be on that too. I know it's a lot of extra work to do all this stuff or be there, but like, I've been really trying to focus on like, I want to get back to the root of what we were doing, and like, you know, Pow Block's on a good track, Boss Rush on a good track. I think Crossroads is on a good track. I don't know. I haven't even checked in with Crossroads since LeRon took the whole thing over, like really took it over. I feel like when I gave you this hosting job for this show, and I know I didn't, but I always felt like I abandoned this show to go help other things. And that's kind of how I felt about Arsenal X, and still feel about Arsenal X, is like, I kind of abandoned that show to do other things. And I always felt bad about that too. And man, sorry, I got a lot of feelings I'm airing out on air here, guys. I'm trying to make this a fun retrospective, and like, this is just part of the show, guys. Part of the show.
And I know that when I took over, when I was part of Arsenal X as host before, you know, you took over, and now Jesse, shout out to him, because he does a fantastic job with hosting Arsenal X. I think I was so much into, I know I got blamed a lot, and I'll take all the blame, that my love for Nintendo was
Nintendo Pow Block 2.0.
exactly was affecting was affecting AX because it was just like I was doing a lot of comparison of Nintendo doing this or Xbox doing something similar to Nintendo. Because in my mind, in my viewpoint, in my opinion, I was just like, it looks like it looked like Microsoft was watching Nintendo and taking those same steps, and it was working for them. Sometimes it didn't work for them, but it was working. And so when you took over and I came on and you were just like, let's see how many times Ed gets a Nintendo thing, and you put me into a Nintendo jar, I was just like, okay, I can't say, because I literally would come out. If I came out of a podcast, I probably would have to owe everybody about $55 each. Literally a new game almost every week, every time I was on the show. But
Yeah.
I think it was just I think it was just like me being so deep rooted in Nintendo Pow Block and just being deep rooted in Nintendo itself, is that when I talk about other companies and stuff, and I make those comparisons to Nintendo, is because I see similar things sometimes, and I do my best now. I try not to bring Nintendo in when I'm on other shows, but sometimes it happens. But like if you look at Arsenal X now, it kind of has some of that old Power Block feeling with me and Jesse, because everything. Of course, we got our show planned and stuff, but like if you watch the first half before we even get into news, a lot of discussions. Of course, it ranged from food and stuff, but a lot of our topics and discussions that we don't even plan, it just feels like once again natural.
Dan, in the chat,
Okay.
Dan says, I can see Ed's eyes twitch when he tries not to talk about Nintendo.
It has been look. Corey knows. Corey and Jesse knows because they laugh.
We know.
They laugh because I would always mention the other company, or I would go around. I'd be like, the company that is red and white at this time, or that first part. Like, I literally come up with names without trying to say Nintendo. But Jesse and Corey knows because it's a struggle not to say them.
I mean, you're not wrong, right? Like, I mean, you're not wrong.
But it's just like if you look at Arsenal X now, it's kind of like, you know, and like I said, Jesse does a fantastic job. You know, we both will it in, and sometimes we have those bigger discussions even before we get into news. But that's kind of how Pow Block was when we first started out. We used to have those big discussions even before we got into news and what we've been playing, because it was just like something that just, I don't know. Sometimes it was just questions because of a news story. It'd be like, dude, can you think of Nintendo doing this and that? And then we would just go off. And that was Bob like, and that's kind of how like AX is. Like even our latest episode of Arsenal X that everybody should go check out. Like I said, even though this is a Nintendo podcast, was that I talked about Starfield and things of that nature. And how, you know, how Sony feels and probably how Sony feels and stuff. And I'm like, that's the kind of things that we would talk about Pow Block. It's just like if Nintendo said something and we analyzed it, and even it wasn't in news and stuff, we still had opinions and viewpoints for it and stuff.
Yeah. It's man.
And now, like, okay, of course, if people check Pow Block now, yeah, it's a little bit organized, it's a little bit clean, but it's the fun, it's the opinions that we have. You know, our once again, our Mario and our Zelda list is probably like pure comedy. Dan be ready to fall out the chair and laughter. Me and David will have discussions and stuff. You know, I told David, you know, because forgive me, everybody, I call Majora's Mask a side quest sequel, and it was just laughter because I was just like gasp at that time, like I call it now the good googly moogly gas, because everybody just called it just like, I can't wait for Ed to say good googly moogly or hear gas, because everybody knows that it's just like when it's coming from me, it's like it's kind of bunkers and stuff, you know. But like, I love, like, when David talks about Zelda, when Celeste talks about Zelda, when LeBron comes on to talk about Monster Hunter, when Jacob comes on talks about Monster Hunter and the outer community. Like, I get so excited for anyone who comes on to talk about games and their passion and stuff, whether it be Nintendo related or not, because it's just like, I've told you, Corey, this many times. I did grew up without having friends. I grew up not having a place to talk about video games. The EGM was my Bible. Like that was my gaming Bible. One Up was like my place where I was able. I felt like I had a community that I could express myself about games. And when I came up to Power Block, meeting you and meeting everybody now and stuff, and hearing their podcasts and talking about games, even with Larry with World 1, like and talking about all of these different kind of games, I get excited and I get so passionate and joyous and stuff. And that's why with Nintendo Pow Block, doing 250 episodes, I haven't. I can tell you, I haven't did all 250 episodes because of work purposes. Every time I come on this podcast, it's always a barrel of fun. Of course, I exude energy and stuff, and I keep that energy up live because I get a chance to talk about people about video games. And I do the same thing with Arsenal X. I did it in our old episodes of PlayStation. When I get going crossroads, it might seem like I yelled I yelled out to the crowd. I'm like, look, if you think I'm just a Nintendo fan, you gotta run because I love PlayStation just like I love Xbox, like I love Nintendo. I'm a big fan of video games. I'm a bigger fan with Nintendo, but I'm like I love games and I love to talk to everybody about them, especially when our not our 1v1, but talking to Walk. Sorry, going through this, going how I this is related to Power Block. Like talk to Walk. I never played the walking simulator until I played What Remains of Edith Finch, and then Celeste got me on the train of playing all of these amazing. David has uh just everybody from who like nominates or talks about a walking sim. I download it and I play it and I'm in awe and stuff. And that's how Power Block is. When people tell me like, "Hey, did you play this game?" I'm like, "No, I'll download it and be in awe."
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Man. This we're doing something interesting. We're doing something not to get off of Pow Block, but I'm going to for a minute and just talk about Boss Rush in general. I know a lot of people over the last couple of years have had a lot of opinions about what we are doing, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. But in the last, probably since about Christmas time, I've really been thinking about that Boss Rush is about who we are as people and fans and hopefully decent conversationalists on podcasts, our personalities and what we love, right? I really feel like we're building something unique. I kind of feel like we are doing, in general, we're doing things that other people are doing on the internet, but like, I feel like we're doing things differently. I mean, I feel like we are. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really listen to that many gaming podcasts anymore. Just because I don't have time, right? Like, it's not because I don't like them. I listen to a few. The podcasts I do listen to are gaming podcasts, but I really feel like Pow Block, our conversations on Pow Block really influenced what I wanted Boss Rush to be and what I feel like you, me, and Jesse set out for Boss Rush to be. And we've had a lot of help along the way, right? Like a lot of people, a lot of good friends guested or helped us get a jump start, right? Like at the beginning, our friend who works at Twitch now, Ray Apollo, like sat in on probably the first 20 episodes of Boss Rush and like really gave us a good foundation of the show. And, you know, we've had guests here and there, right? Antonio and we've just had a ton of people come in and, you know, whether they're here or you know, come on once in a while or here every other week, every week. there's so many people involved in this at some point or another, and it's been, I don't know. I sit back sometimes when I can't sleep at night because I'm editing something, or I drank an energy drink to do a show, and then I just like lay in bed with my eyes open and I just think about stuff when I have to be up in like 5 hours.
Sometimes you'll message me, and then I'll be like, let me message. I'm like, I have woken up because I heard a Facebook message and I see it's you, and I have almost broken my neck falling out the bed trying to message you back.
I know,
because I'm just like, oh, he messaged me like.
It's man, I just hope that everybody that's involved here, right, knows that their personality and what they love and what they want to do is a viable option here, right? Like, the Pow Block has changed pretty drastically, right? Mm-hmm. But that's who is on the show right now, right? Like, that's how it is, right? And I hope I want to encourage, Dan and David have been a big part of reconstructing that show, right, into not a Corey and Ed talk fest for 3 hours, right? Like, I mean, we kind of poke fun at David sometimes for being super organized, but he's super organized. If you ever look at the files for the writing team, they are intimidatingly organized. Is that even a word? I don't care if it is or not. I said it. So
he's top tier professional. Like, he is, and don't forget, for people who don't know, we met David on accident by Celeste asking the wrong David about Zelda, and happily this David asked me, loves Zelda, and it led it.
Well, yeah, he's a writer at Zelda Dungeon. I hope he likes Zelda. But like, I messaged him probably 4 or 5 months ago when he first kind of started sitting in on Pow Block before he kind of became a mainstay. I was like, man, when we asked you to come on Pow Block and you said, yeah, I kind of had like a mini like fan moment, because like I went to Zelda Dungeon religiously every time a new Zelda game, like every time I would start playing a Zelda game, I use Zelda Dungeon's guides, right? Like I use their walkthroughs, I use their stuff to get through and find secrets and stuff. And it's like, I kind of had this little mini moment where I was like, man, like Zelda Dungeon, to me, feels like a real site, like that people actually go visit. He's co-hosting our Nintendo show that we started because we're fans of Nintendo and Zelda, right?
Right. And to meet Celeste, who helped us meet Jacob and Shay from another Zelda another Zelda podcast, I'm just like, oh my goodness, there are encyclopedia of Zelda that I'm just like, this outnerves me at times, but I am astonished. I get excited because I get to hear them talk about Zelda, and I get to read the stuff, because there's lore stuff that I just forget. My thing is, I want to get in the dungeon. I want to see
the lore stuff in Zelda is super fascinating to like.
It is.
It's like on Tower Casuals when Josh and I do Tower Casuals and he does the lore corner stuff. I just sit there and listen like kids sit at the library and watch the librarian and read like this storybook. I'm just like, wow. This is amazing.
Fascinating.
And like Zelda's the same way, where like I don't know, I love Zelda, right? I love Zelda, but like I couldn't tell you one thing about the lore in Zelda. Like I can tell you base level things, right? But like when you go to Zelda Dungeon or you go to another Zelda podcast website and you just see like, you're just reading about like Link's house from A Link to the Past, and you're like, there's like 1,000 words here just talking about Link's house and like what it's made out of and like whose table that was and like, you know what I mean? Like,
it is fascinating to me because I've never met a community like that, and it's cool that I could go to another Zelda podcast or I could go to Zelda Dungeon and just read about stuff that I didn't take notice of. It changes a lot of my perspective about the Zelda series because I love Zelda. I played Zelda ever since the first gold cartridge came out. You know, watching the TV series, I have my problems with Zelda 2 and Majora's Mask, but I like I told David and Celeste, I will run out right now. They said Switch has a deluxe edition for $100 of Majora's Mask. I will leave this podcast now and try to break down the doors of Best Buy to order it. I mean, we do have it online, but
yeah. By the way, this might already be like real news by the time this episode goes live on podcast feeds. Switch Pro, man, it's seemingly happening. But man, dude,
oh, I'm throwing up.
What? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay, because this is one of our like regular Nintendo Power Block episodes.
Oh God, here we
I'm
go.
throwing a whole bunch of salt on this rumor. I told Dan that
You're the worst.
until I see concrete evidence and a release to it, until Nintendo comes out and speak of it, I know that it's probably happening. I don't think it's happening now. It's with a grain of salt. If in fact, it got Sam Club salt on this mug.
You see our chat, our Twitch chat right now is insane. By the way, there's 15 people on our Twitch chat. I don't think we've ever had that many people watch the show at the same time. So thank you everybody who's in the chat hanging out. Dan and Matt, our old friend Matt, who we used to do podcasts with, is in the chat, and they're like arguing about Switch Pro right now.
Oh, shout out to you guys. Check out Matt is doing a new podcast, music podcast, like a music therapy podcast. He just released the trailer out. Do forgive me, Matt. I gotta get the information, but I'll be trying to plug you on
Plug
Power.
it. You're here. Plug it. We'll shout it
if
out.
you're in the chat, Matt. Yeah. Plug it. I really can't. It's going to be a bi-monthly podcast, and they're going to be talking about music and having a playlist. I really cannot wait to hear it because, like I said, through ups and downs, through everything, Matt has been a big part of our content that we have made, and
I still like we still talk like maybe like once a week or once every couple weeks. I want him to come on a show at some point. Like I want him on Boss Rush with us just to like hang out and talk and play games, right? Trivial Merit is what the right? Did I say that right? Yeah. Trivial Merit is
yes.
his music show. So go follow him. It's on Twitter. I like. I mean, I just want to say like the growth of Pow Block is, I mean, when Matt and I started Nerds Gone Rogue, like you were on those first handful of episodes out of that, and like this show and that show were like sister shows for a while, right? Like it man, if I could, I don't know, oh, sorry, everybody. So many good memories.
Right. Shout out to Fallen Little Angel. Part of, we had our PlayStation podcast with us.
The first PlayStation podcast we tried, DualShocked, he was on that show, and it just, man, I feel like the more people I am grateful for, there's that many more people I need to apologize to, right? Like, he's definitely one that I should probably apologize to. Larry is someone, everybody.
Yes.
I and that's just something that comes with the territory too, is like you meet so many cool people, and like sometimes things don't work out, and sometimes things don't work out amicably, and sometimes they don't work out in other ways. But I just, man, there's been so many people that we've met doing this. It's insane.
Yes.
How many people. But before I start getting all sappy and emotional about people. I want first of all, I want to talk about the future of Boss Rush and Pow Block in general, Ed, soon, in a second. But I just want to take this moment and say thank you for being my best friend for 5+ years, 6 years, however long we've been doing this show. I hope that we can do it for 5, 6, 7, 10 more years, even if Boss Rush isn't around, even if, everybody leaves us and it's just us sitting here on Skype talking about Nintendo. It's been really fun. But instead of going down that route, we're going to talk a little bit about our future here at Boss Rush. I don't know. I would like to start doing some of this stuff sooner than later, but we need to have a meeting with everybody. But we are finally launching our Patreon at some point. And Pow Block is going to be a pretty heavily featured part of it. It's not going to be like early access, right? Like all of our shows are going to be like same time, same whatever, right? You can still watch them live on Twitch. You can still get them on podcast feeds the days they're supposed to come out. We're not doing any of that early access stuff. But what do you think about that? Like, I'm waiting on our LLC to be approved, right? Like, I applied for it. It's happening. Got to get some 1099 forms, just in case we make $1 and the government needs to know about it. Well, I mean, what do you feel? How do you feel about the future of Boss Rush? Like, our numbers are growing week by week. I think we have a great staff, like between our podcast and video staff, between our live team, between our writing team, entertainment side. Yeah, like we haven't even mentioned the entertainment side, right? Like, which we should, because I'm terrible at promoting that stuff. Sorry, Logan. I know you're watching or listening or something. I don't know what you're doing, to be honest with you. You're probably I don't know.
Cookies, something delicious.
Yeah, we're gonna make licorice hot dogs with
Look, that may be hot.
You know what?
I'm not gonna deny that may be hot. But let me answer your question real quick. Before we continue, I'm excited. I think this was one of your biggest dreams back in the day, and I think making the move and when it comes to fruition and stuff, we're going to be nervous because we're going to be like, we don't know what the heck that we're doing. But I think we got people on the team that have kind of worked through this thing and stuff, so we can always ask them for advice. And I think it's just another step of Boss Rush growing, and stuff. It still be a community thing, still, focusing that what our content and stuff's all about. It's just having a business aspect connected to it. Like,
I mean, we talked about, you and I talked about, like, we used to do mini blocks and stuff. That's, or do a second episode a week. Like, that's basically all the Patreon is really going to provide for people, is like, if you want to hear more of us, like, we're going to do a second show a week per show, right? Like, Boss Rush After Hours is something LaRon and you and I have talked about for like a month now, right? Pow Block, Dan and I talked about bringing back Mini Block, or if Jacob had some really cool ideas for titles for stuff. Yeah, I'm excited for this next step. It's scary. It's I'm so anxious writing up like these contracts and stuff just to like have them on file, right? Like I need to get you some information on what's happening too, like the real business information that's like totally scary, and I have no idea what any of it means. But exactly. I feel like since, you know, we're partners in this, that we should probably be on the same page. Exactly. But my goal too is to like have a show again, not like a bonus show that will be released free at some point, right? Like I think our plan is to eventually release our shows free somewhere at some point, right? We don't want to keep a lot of things behind a paywall, but my thing is like I hope we can do some sort of Pow Block spinoff show where it's literally just me and you rambling for 90 minutes on a weekend night or something. So I mean, I think we have an amazing team. You know, I mean, we've always had great teams in the past, right? Like, we've always had great people that we've worked with, but, like, we have an amazing team, right? Celeste running the interview stuff is amazing. Like you said, the entertainment stuff with Land Party and Q-List and all that stuff over there, and our console-specific shows, and, like, having LaRon and Jesse edit Crossroads and Arsenal X respectively has been a huge help to allow us to do other things.
Our first and second class, you know.
Yeah, that like we didn't even bring that up either. Is like our network classes.
You know, of course, we always say WSD and beyond.
I always I feel bad because I was like, I'm not going to butcher it when he comes on. Nick came on Boss Rush. I totally butchered it because when I like type stuff into Twitter to tag them in something, it's beyond WASD. So I'm like, okay, so beyond WASD, because that's just like in my head when I read it, right? And then I was like, I'm not going to butcher it. I'm going to say WASD and beyond. First thing I say, from WASD and beyond. I'm like, oh God, I butchered it right away. Oh my gosh.
You know,
terrible.
Of course, you know, the EXP cast, but like Lore Together is so good. The Yodelers,
yeah.
You know, of course, the bad bitches. You know, console crew like Wes and Eric. I love Wes and the console crew. I love hearing their podcasts and the work that they do. I'm trying to get on their show. Hopefully, they will have me one day because I just want to talk games with them. And like, you know, really nerd out. And I'm proud of Wes himself because he goes out and, you know, he's doing he's streaming his workout goals with Ring Fit, and I'm just like, that's
amazing. That's
awesome.
A cool idea.
It really is.
I feel like if I stole it at this point, I would just be stealing from him, so I would feel bad. So I'm just going to remain fat for the rest of my life. It's really Wes's fault that I'm not working out.
And then we got like Block's gaming reviews. Like,
dude, his reviews are so good. They're so fun.
Good.
There's something like he had, like, if you don't know Block, you should go check out Block's game reviews. It's on our website on bossrush.com/network. There's a link to his YouTube channel there. You can go to Block's game reviews on YouTube. He has a thick accent, right? Like, he has an accent, and then when he does the reviews, like, most of them are like classic games or older games, which are fun. But there's just like a wholesomeness to it because of his accent.
Yes.
That you just like kind of want to just like sit back in a rocking chair and like just listen, you know? And I love his reviews. I watched his, which one did he just post? He posted, the Dark Cloud 2 one.
Yeah.
It was really good. And I just like, I wanted to listen, but like his voice is so relaxing that I just kind of like not fell asleep, but it was like I felt myself nodding a little bit because his voice is so relaxing.
And like just, you know, of course the diggity with Jeff and
Brody.
Like, doing E3 discussions like last year with them was just a hoot.
Yeah.
just a just
Oh my gosh,
a
they probably wanted to kill us after that episode because it was 3.5
that was.
hours long.
But shoot, but now they have recorded with WSD and Beyond, so they are used to doing 2 hours
I know.
plus.
I know.
So
Did you see their shirts, by the way? The WASD cross diggity
yes,
shirts.
yes, I may have to talk to Nick.
I know.
I'd be like, I may, Nick, if you're watching this, you may be seeing a Vimeo real soon. And of course, like me and LaRon, like talking to LaRon, and of course our 3 hour 1v1. But like having them on the team is just like
He's been a huge boost for like
yes,
not only just like another great host for us to talk to, but just like the technical side of things and getting our live show stuff kind of better, than it was. And it's been a joy adding him to the team, especially like the first time we tried to expand, it was kind of like a bad like thing with someone,
yeah.
and it was just like, man, we got to really be careful the next time we go out and try to find someone to expand because some real characters out there. There are some real people out there that will try to say one thing in front of you and do another thing on the internet, and that was a pretty bad week.
Yes.
But
having the Pride panel last year and you meeting LaRon and everybody was just like it was just so good and I think that's kind of what Pow Block and Boss Rush are getting, and I'm gonna let you get back to Corey. I think that's why if anyone hasn't checked our last Boss Rush podcast episode when we talk about communities and stuff, that's the example of what a good community is. It's like coming together, having fun, helping each other out, bigging everybody up, encouraging them, embracing them, and it's just like you want everybody who does this to have fun and put out content that others can find out and have fun too and stuff. And like I talk to LaRon, and everybody in Boston Church knows that me and LaRon can have discussions. But we've always have a fun time. We don't, and if anything feels wrong and everything, like we apologize and stuff.
I mean,
but
everybody knows that like if something's really wrong, that they can talk to us about it, and we'll try to find a way to fix it. Right? Like even if you if it's someone within the team, right? Like we're gonna fix it. Like we'll bring each other together. Like, I mean, there's been a couple times where I got something from one side about someone, and then the other side came to me about the other side, and like I would bring them into the same chat together and be like, okay guys, I'm getting something from both sides here. Let's talk it out. Let's figure it out. Let's just, break down these walls. What's the matter? How can we fix it? That kind of thing, right? And we did multiple times, and it works. Communication works. We all like, even if we make a mistake or two, nobody's getting fired over a mistake or two, right? Like we just had that talk on the Boss Rush podcast, on what, episode 95, I think, like about community and mistakes and forgiveness and stuff. And Logan was a big part of that too. That conversation, which we actually had a side conversation before that, and like, hey, should we talk about this? Because it really affected one of our friends, and that was a terrible conversation to have, but a necessary one, because I want everybody to feel like they are welcome here, even if they make a mistake or two. I mean, like I said to you and LaRon and the panel that day, right? Like, if someone's slinging the N-word around our Discord, like they're out. Right, like that's
right.
unacceptable. But like if people are arguing or people are fighting, or like, we're not going to shame people for making one mistake, or be like Logan and Austin are really like they're really into their church and really religious and stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to take that away from you. Why would I do that? There's a benefit to knowing, and I mean even you, right? Like I mean, there's a benefit to learning about people and learning other sides of stories, right? And I don't know. I feel like how different everyone is on the team, but still works hard and still does the job or does what needs to be done is like super helpful and super important. And I hope everyone gets that from us, you know, like especially within the team and the network, right? Like I hope people know that if they think differently than we do on certain things, that it's okay, you know? It's okay.
Right. You know. And so us going into this business thing, it's just like it's going to be scary at first, but it's only scary because we haven't did anything. And when you start anything new, you're always going to be scared because you got to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And with the stuff that doesn't work, can we make it work in a different way, or do we get rid of it altogether? And the stuff that does work, how do we improve?
Well, that's why we brought smarter people than we are into some things. Like I know Dan is starting his own business, right? Like, and we've kind of been chatting back and forth. And like when this is approved, he's I mean, no offense to you, Ed, but he's the first person I'm going to about business advice.
That's good, child. Only thing I can tell you be like, there's a sale at Target. That's all I can help you.
No, but seriously, we have like a founders roundtable chat, and like there's the people I feel like are the people who are going to be making most of the decisions at Boss Rush moving forward are in that chat. And I don't want to do anything that people don't like. I think we can compromise. I think we can take a vote, and like it's going to be a pretty democratic process where we kind of vote on things. And you know, we kind of floated some Patreon tiers out, you know, to see like would this be good? Do we need to raise or lower some options? Do we need to add options? Do we need to take away options? That kind of thing. And I think we're going to have one big meeting before we really launch it. I've been working on it. Really wish the state of Ohio would hurry up and approve this LLC. It's taking them a sweet time, you know, but
it's like getting approved from Apple Podcasts.
Oh God, no! I mean, I think that takes a shorter amount of time
to get. No, it took me a month to get optional opinion on that mug. I'm like, are you serious?
Look, Apple Podcasts either takes 5 minutes or 3 months. There's no in between. There is zero in between for that. But to get back to like one of the things I want to do on the Patreon is like I want to have a show at least once or twice a month where you and I sit down and just have conversations like this. Like nobody else. You know, you and me hanging out for 90 minutes or so, or, you know, this, by the way, this whole episode is probably going to be a separate video and a separate episode on the podcast feed. Now, I should have known going into this, but my thing was like, this is probably going to be like a 30 or 40 minute introduction to episode 250. No, this is just...
So we're gonna edit this. We're gonna edit this part. Be like, so yeah, that was 250. Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoy it.
But one of the things I want to get to is like just you and me having a podcast like once or twice a month or more. That they'll get early access to that, but it'll go live on YouTube and stuff like a month later for people to watch. And I miss our conversations, not necessarily Pow Block, because I really like the way Pow Block's going. Again, I want to reiterate that I like the way Pow Block's growing and the direction it's going and everything. I love the way that you guys have kind of changed the format of the show. I think Game Fact Advance is a big hit. I think Snacktendo is a huge hit. I mean, we saw how disappointed people were on our E3 predictions episode that they didn't have Snacktendo.
It is going to be back next week. I told everybody, I'm like, it's coming back.
I know.
Just for that time.
But I miss the conversations we used to have, and I'm hoping that it's going to be kind of like a bonus show for people to listen to that, maybe they'll understand more of what because like since Boss Rush started and like even in the last 6 months, there's been thousands of new listeners to Pow Block, right? Like the numbers increased 3 times since September or October or whatever, right? Like it's grown exponentially, and I just really miss our conversations, and this was a good example of like what I hope you and I can do sooner than later, right? Like it's just, if it's on a Saturday night at like 11 and we just hang out and even if we're playing games and talking, right? Like I want it to be that too. Like it's people are gonna have such low expectations, but it's I think I've been saying this for a long time, and like I said, when we launch the Patreon, our base shows are going to be free. Everything's going to be that you listen to now is going to be free, right?
Mm-hmm.
On time, whatever. We're not doing the early access thing. This is more for people who are really dedicated to our community. If you want to throw us $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever, there's going to be something extra for you to hang your hat on, whether it's Boss Rush After Dark, whether it's like Pow Block, Warp Zone, or Mini Block, or whatever. I still need to talk to LeRon to see what he wants to do about Crossroads, if he wants to monetize that with us or separately, because technically there's like a partnering system that I'm working on. It's a thing. We can talk about it off air or whatever. But there's going to be like bonus shows with that. I want to give people value that invest in us, right? I just want to give people value. I want to give people more of what they like, and tweak it as we go to make sure that if they are investing in us, they're getting what they pay for. And if they don't want to, then that's fine too, right? Like our shows are going to be free. YouTube's going to be free, right? Like it's all going to be there. But Ed, what I was trying to say was like, so many people put so much hard work into this stuff.
Yes.
That the amount of work people put into this, they deserve to be rewarded, right? They deserve to have a little something to say, hey, look what I did, and this is what we're doing, and I'm proud that, we make content that people want to support. And, I've been saying that since Nerds Gone Rogue, honestly, is like so many people put so much work into this, and it's kind of my fault for putting it off, but also I wanted to make sure everything was perfect and that we launched at the right time and with the right content and with the right people. I can't thank anybody enough for building what we started out as. We had no idea what we wanted to do, and this is what happened. Boss Rush happened because we had no idea what we wanted to do, so we just threw everything at the wall to see what stuck, and we invited our friends, and we invited people that we didn't even know to do stuff with us on the internet, and this is what happened, right? Celeste probably thought we were crazy for inviting her to the State of Play watch-along, right? Like,
I remember watching that.
Like, that was her first thing, was like a PlayStation watch-along. Like at the time, I was like, man, it's just exciting to have someone else besides Ed. And no offense to you and Jesse, Ed, but it's just exciting to have someone else to talk to.
Yes. And it was so funny because after that, I talked to LeRon about it. I was just like, did you do? Because he did a reaction too, and I was just like, dang it, we forgot to ask LeRon if he wanted to do it.
I know. Probably would have been a smarter idea at the time, but hindsight's 20/20, guys. It's but when she helped us kind of redirect Pow Block a little bit by being the third chair for a little while, and when you missed an episode or two, and we spent like 45 minutes talking about our favorite video game beaches, and we talked about Mario Sunshine for 20 minutes, I think, and it was like, this is a different episode, but it's still kind of cool, and I don't know.
I listened back to it, just like, a regular Nintendo Pow Block episode.
Yeah. So I think on the kind of main staff, there's 11 or 12 of us now, and then the writing team, David and Dan, have done an unbelievable job of growing us from, like, I don't know, maybe 200 views a month to, like, we're going to hit, I don't know, we were talking about it in our chat today, our website chat. Let me see. I'm sorry, guys. Real time stat tracking. Why don't we go to the right website? Then maybe I can tell you. We went from. Here you go, Ed. Are you ready?
Yeah.
January 2020, we had 640 views in a month. 640 views. This month we hit 7,275 right now, and there's still a weekend left in the month.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I mean, as much as I would like to take credit for that, I hired Dan and David, so it's my achievement. No, I can't I can't thank Dan and David enough for what they're doing. It's incredible, dude. Like what they've done with the writing team is incredible, and that's kind of allowing us to kind of be more open with doing pod clip stuff now, right? And exploring a new video series or bringing back old video series. It's this team is incredible, and I believe in everybody. You know, I know sometimes some of us get heated discussions. I know sometimes I see like David and Dan, the chat that we're in together, me and those two and me, and their ideas for the writing team. And like sometimes I'm frustrated. I'm like, why? What are you doing? I don't know what this means. I'm really frustrated, but I'm not smart enough to know what you guys are doing. And then it turns out that we get 7,000 hits in 1 month for the first time ever. And I'm like, this is why I don't say anything when they say stuff, because I know I'm wrong. I just know I'm wrong. And I gotta do something for them. I gotta do something for them, because they built this website into something that's like people want to visit, right? People want to visit the website. It's not just something that's like, oh, it exists and you can watch our podcast on it. There's the Boss Rush Banter stuff was a huge idea from David, and like the news stuff, people are killing it with news stuff, and the editorials, and Stephanie doing her thing with stuff that goes up on Saturdays.
Stephanie's big.
Yeah,
Stephanie's big. And killing it.
And Block, and you know, Stoy's been doing the Game Pass stuff, and it's just
from where we were at the beginning to now, you would not believe how Boss Rush evolved from, like you mentioned earlier, from the DNA days to NGR to Codename NX to Boss Rush. It's just like we didn't have all of this stuff that we got now in the past. Mm-hmm. You know, everything evolved and built, and now look where it's at. You know.
Yeah.
Don't forget, for years you've been trying to get people to write for the website. For years.
I know.
Now, I admit, my writing is terrible at times. I have grammar problems. I would have said that, but I'm like, you look at it now. It's just like, dude, you gotta write it.
From the first time you wrote something to now, it's a huge improvement, right? Because I mean, like when we the one that sticks out is the Yoshi's Crafted World review. When we sat down, when you wrote that review, like, and we sat for hours editing that and trying to, you know, piece some paragraphs together to make it more coherent, and like just learning and teaching and learning and dude, you've grown a lot as a writer, and you know, I mean, I'm not saying you still don't make mistakes, right? Because I mean, not that I'm reading them, it's David and Dan now. Like they probably have made you a way better writer than my, you know, 3 times I sat with you on some reviews. But like, I mean, you've grown as a podcaster, as a writer, as a, you know, someone who still has hot takes. At least you can back them up, right? Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, boss.
Doing this, I know I'm not the smartest person to start a business, but the one thing that I can confidently say in myself is that I really feel like I know how to put the right people in the right places.
Correct.
And I took a business class. I took a lot of business classes, but I had a professor, Professor Williams. He passed away last year, sadly. Maybe it was 2 years ago, but he taught me one thing, and it says he said the best way to manage is to put people in the right places and let them go, right? And that was something that I was terrible at during the like NGR stuff, which I mean I think I still did a pretty good job. I just did a terrible job being like letting people go, right, and just doing their own thing. And I think that's part of the reason that ended. But letting Dan and David go with the website, and like I knew they were the right people, and as much as I wanted to like say maybe we should do this or don't do this or whatever, like I mean that's like the prime example right now that I have is like, look what they've done with the website, or look what you've done with Pow Block, or look what Laron's done with Crossroads, right? Like it's putting the right people in the right places. I mean, look at Celeste's interviews. They're like secretly some of the biggest things we do on YouTube and podcasts, right? Or the Talk the Walk series that we do like once every couple months. Like that's, but I wouldn't have done this if we didn't start Boss Rush together. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be having this conversation if you weren't here, you know, and you know, just to kind of say one last final thought is like, just thank you for being the partner that I should have, you know. A lot of people like talk to me and say like, oh, good, you know, sometimes I get DMs say, hey, good job on Boss Rush, or, you know, some nice things. I'm like, Ed's the passion, Ed's the you know, like there's always the straight man and there's always the eccentric wild one, right? And like I feel like I play the straight guy pretty well, and I feel like you're the eccentric passion that this entire network needs. And that's, I think, maybe, just maybe, that's why we've kind of succeeded for so long. So I will always say that you are the backbone of this project. And I think you deserve more credit than you get. You know, to be honest, to be 1,000% honest, like there's a lot of things that people haven't seen like from me, but I will text you and say, Ed, I'm super stressed. I don't know what to do. I'm like going crazy, and like you've brought me back down. You've talked me through things. You've talked me out of things. You know, and you've done a lot for me personally, outside of this too. So didn't mean for this to turn into some kind of, you know.
I don't want to discount Jesse
No,
because
I don't either. I mean he's not here. This is just
here.
like, you know. No, I mean Jesse's done a lot too, right? Like I mean he's keeping the Xbox passion alive, you know. But
just
you know, I mean I'm super thankful to Jesse too, you know.
right.
I don't mean to leave him out. This is just like you and me talking here. I if he was here, I'd be saying a lot of things to him to his face, but I'm thankful for Jesse too, for kind of because like after everything, like after we restarted, like I wouldn't have blamed someone for leaving just because we had to restart or something. And I know that he wasn't thinking that way, but like I wouldn't have blamed him for thinking that way, you know. But he stuck it out with us, and
yeah,
it's been just both of you, honestly.
I think for all three of us, it's just been a growing experience, you know,
Yeah.
from doing something just online, you know, meeting up, talking about games, talking about music, and talking about personal life stuff, and just growing and connecting that way. You know, it's just like I always say that it feels like family, and to me, always feels like family. And you know, I could definitely say because of you, I have grown. I have become I've becoming a better person. I will say that, and I wouldn't be doing the stuff I would be doing without you. I wouldn't be doing the stuff without Jesse. Like I always, the same amount of times that I talk to you is the same amount I talk to Jesse. Everybody knows on Arsenal X that I call me and Jesse could be on the phone while I'm coming from the grocery store, and it could be a podcast itself. But it's just like talking to him and talking about music and like just having those conversations. It's really helped me, you know, because I'm like like I said, not having friends. It's hard making friends. And meeting you and being friends for all this time, still to this very day, just means everything to me. It means the world. And it's just like if anything happens, child, I don't know what I'll do. I'll just leave it at that. Because I'm like, we've done so much together for Boss Rush and for all our other stuff, but just like outside of that, for our friendship, we have done so much. You know, the same way that I helped you, you have helped me. You know, and I have been up in front and honest with you about things, and you have helped me through that stuff. Same way with Jesse, he has helped me through a lot of stuff. So, I want to say thank you for, you know, being my best friend, and Jesse being my best friend, and everybody else who contribute that I meet and that I talk and laugh with. I'm like, thank you, because it literally has helped me. It means the world to me.
Yeah, it's been a humbling experience, like since the beginning. I can't believe people still listen. Right, like just bumbling in it, dude. We talked about not going live tonight, right? We were like, maybe we should just do this, dude. We've had the most people in our Twitch chat that we've ever had tonight, and it's just us being bumbling idiots about nothing. So on that note, I am gonna wrap this up. Just because we've been going for almost 2 hours, and you know, there's still going to be an episode 250 part 2 coming up shortly. So, which is going to include everybody. It's probably going to be our big E3 talk, right? Like, I mean, we've got the E3 is probably happening that day that the episode 250 records, which is amazing timing. But I want to thank, like, just on the Pow Block side of things, I want to thank Dan and David and Jacob and Celeste, and everybody who's come through as guests, right? Like I know Grayson has come on a few times. I know Stephanie's been on. I know We've had quite a few people on. Rebellity has been on. Like, there's so many people.
Yes.
That I don't even know who to thank first, but I just want to thank everybody who's made Pow Block something special, everybody who's contributed or listened or made time to talk in our Discord or our Facebook group or tag us on Twitter about stuff. Like, anybody who's asked a question, people have been listening to us since the beginning. I know people still listen from when we were doing it in the beginning. It's just, I want to thank everybody. Ed, thank you for doing this with me and without me for the last couple months. I am gonna be back. Like I I just I miss you.
I miss you too. I miss gaming and talking games and snacking out and conversating. I miss all of that.
Yeah. So I'll be here on Pow Block. Ed's still gonna host. Don't worry, guys. He deserves it. He needs it. It's he's better at it. So I want to thank everybody watching and or listening. Remember to give us a nice review on them iTunes or listen to us on Spotify. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitch at Boss Rush Games Live. This has been episode 250, part 1, a kind of weird retrospective / comedy show / emotional breakdown. I think I saw at some point, probably within the first half hour, Logan was like, so are we turning this into a Nintendo rom-com? I'll write the script. So there's that, I guess. Maybe a Patreon stretch goal, I guess. I don't know. But Ed, where can we find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at that retro code. Check me out on Nintendo Pow Block on Mondays. Check out Arsenal X on Tuesdays. If you guys want to check me out on Twitch, I am that retro code. And my Xbox, PSN, and Switch stuff is on my Twitter page if you guys want to check that out. And Optional Opinion on SoundCloud and World11 on Podbean.com. I promise I will be getting back to Optional Opinion on SoundCloud. There's more episodes that I'm finding a different way on recording it. I got to download some stuff, but I'm going to be recording some new episodes and getting it up because I haven't been doing it because I've been doing other stuff, but I'm going to get back to Optional Opinions for you guys to hear. So yeah.
Ed, thank you for taking 2 hours tonight to do this. I skipped Tower Casuals for this.
I have been looking for this day, this moment all day.
I know. When we first, we just talked for 2 hours. I don't want to bug anybody else for their time right now. We can talk about it on another episode. You can find me at I am Corey HD on Twitter. You can find me hosting the Boss Rush podcast on Mondays on your podcast feeds. You can find me hosting Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast with Josh Finney on Thursday nights and live on podcast feeds on Fridays and then on YouTube on Saturdays. You can catch all of our content on bossrushgames.com. We are going to have more to announce in the future about what we do plan on doing on Patreon. So stay tuned for that. You can follow us on Twitter at Boss Rush Network, on at Pow Block Podcast. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us for 2 hours, and we will see you next time for a regular episode of Nintendo Pow Block. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Woohoo!